Hi, I'm Lauren from LSP Actions. Welcome to this first tutorial for the LSP Arch Overlay Textures for Photoshop. After downloading, you'll notice that you have two files. Let me just get them up for you. You have the Arch Textures Overlays. These do take a while to download, and there's a huge folder, and it's zipped, it's compressed because it's got a lot inside. And you have the actions. First thing you need to do is unzip the arches. This is going to take a while because this is a huge folder. If you're on a Mac, I'm on Windows right now, you can use the archive utility. This is a big download. It's going to take quite a while to unzip. You have different textures inside. You have squares, portraits and landscapes. They are the same arches. The aspect ratio is different depending on what image you're using, and this way you get the most bang for your pixel. So in the meantime, let's get the actions into Photoshop. These are for Photoshop Creative Cloud. If you're using Elements, you may find these actions don't work well because Elements is a very limited version of Photoshop. These actions utilize the full version of Photoshop, so I recommend getting Creative Cloud. You can just double click to install the actions and they will appear in your action panel. You can also see other ways to install actions on the LSP Actions website, lsp-actions.com, and go to Installation Guides. To view your actions, go to Window and hit Actions. The texture, Arch Texture actions will appear at the bottom of your action panel. I like to drag them to the top, but I'm going to leave them here for now. You can click on an action and hit the play button. These are the instruction actions, so this will come up and give you some hints. I prefer to use coloured button mode, so on the little burger menu, click button mode and drag this in to a nice neat column so that you can see them properly, because otherwise they kind of look like this. We don't want that, so drag it into a column like so it snaps in. Scroll down. And now you can see these are coloured. Part 1 is placing your arch. There is a video tutorial to do this manually, which is also helpful if you're using Photoshop Elements to use these as textures. But for this video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to do this using the actions. So part 1, you place your arch. You have mid to dark backgrounds, light to medium backgrounds, white backgrounds. I recommend these on mid to dark backgrounds, but whites I have included an action to help you convert them for white images. And a full background replacement action. This is if you want to add your arch as a complete background replacement rather than an overlay. I personally prefer overlays, especially if you're using a seamless background like this. But if you've got, say, you know, you're outdoors or you've got loads of props or anything, you might want to use this as a background replacement. It's entirely up to you. The actions work in the same way. And you can watch the other tutorials for more tips on using these. This is an overview. So we're going to use a mid to dark background add arch. So I'm just going to click this one to play it. Oops, sorry, hitting my keyboard there. Open up the folder where you've extracted these arch textures to. So I'm just going to open this up. Landscape, portrait or square. Obviously this image is a landscape image, so I'm going to open those arches up. Let's view them a little bit bigger. You've got loads to choose from. Loads and loads of choice. So which one shall we go for this image? How about we go for, let's start with number 10. We can always add more. And these actions are going to play out and allow you to resize this over your image. It's slightly transparent so you can see what's going on. You want to line this horizon line up with the horizon line in your image for best results. So let's just add that in. You also want the light to match. If you struggle noticing lighting in images, the side of the arch with the shadow is actually the light side. In this image, the light is coming from the right, and in this overlay it's coming from the right, so that's fine. If, for example, you needed to flip this, you can right click and choose flip horizontal. Once it's in place, hit the little checkbox and the action is going to continue playing out, creating all the layers that you need. Because this is a Photoshop Creative Cloud action, it's also going to create some subject selection for you, just like this. See, most of the work has been done. It's brilliant. If for some reason there's anything funny on this subject selection that doesn't look great, for example here I can see there's a little bit just around here, you can grab your brush. Black means hide, so that's going to hide the texture, the arch, and white means show. Sorry, my brush is absolutely huge. So what I'm going to do, it's already on the layer mask. If you don't see your layers, come up to window, make sure layers is selected. I'm going to use a hard brush because this is a hard area, it's not soft and blurry, and I'm just going to paint this. If you accidentally go over, for example like this, revealing your original image, you can switch to white to bring this texture back in. It is worth taking a moment to just zoom in and just take a little bit of time to make sure the masking's right. 90% of it will be done for you, but just in case there's any funny areas, you can get in personally and just change this up. Hard brush is good for very in focus areas, and a soft brush is good for blurry areas. You can also use Photoshop selection tools, refining the edge. You know, if you go to select, there's lots of tutorials online about selection. Let's just bring this back into our screen. Okay, so you notice in your layers panel, you have your texture and it has a little blur on it as well, just to add that beautiful background blur. You can double click to change this, you know, if you wanted to. I recommend leaving it as it is, at least to begin with. So we've placed our arch, selecting one of the places, one of these actions that place it into your image and sets it up. Part 2 is editing, and I've created some actions in here that can do that for you. We can flip, make sure you've got the arch layer selected, the thumbnail of the arch in your layers panel, and you can hit this to flip. So if you've placed it and you've gone, oh actually the light's in the wrong way, we can place this to flip it, but the light is in the right way for this image. If you want to resize and position, hit don't show again, you can do that as well. Next up, we have these cool actions: add editing layers for your arch or add editing layers for your subject. These are optional, but you might find these very, very useful. So I'm going to first add editing layers for the arch. Make sure the arch smart object, the compressed layer, this is the thumbnail, is selected. Yes, so I'm going to hit continue. If it wasn't, for some reason, you'd hit stop, select it, and then play the action again. This is just setting up now some, what I'm going to do is just make my layers a little bit bigger for you. And let's just pull that out. So you can see here, we've got darken, lighten, warm, desaturate, and sharpen, and these are all for the arch only. So let's grab our brush, nice and soft, make it nice and big as well. I recommend, as with all LSP actions, 100% opacity and 25% flow. Make sure your brush mode is set to normal at the top. And let's darken. So if you wanted to, for example, darken the arch, you can paint this over. We don't need to do that for this image. Lighten again as well. This is going to lighten areas of your arch. If you wanted to do that, you notice this is not affecting your subject. If you want to warm this up, we definitely don't need to warm it up for this image, but if you wanted to add extra warmth, you can paint that over. Desaturate, if there's anywhere that's a little bit too coloured, you can come over like this and take the saturation out. And sharpen, do you want to add some extra definition and sharpness to it? Those are the arch editing layers. Next up, we had editing layers for your subject. So I'm just going to click this. Yes, the arch is selected, so I'm going to hit continue. Always select the arch before you play any of these. Underneath, you'll see there's some editing layers now. Just for our subject, we can warm them up. We can paint on, you know, some brightness. Or paint on darkness. This darkness is great if you want to add some shadowing. So let's do that. Here's a trick as well for a shadow brush. I'm going to right click to get the brush menu up, soft round brush. I'm just going to squeeze it in so it's like a little kind of oval shape, and point this in the direction of a shadow. And now you can see it's very, very big, but it's very, very soft. So I can just add some shadowing here. You can also, if you want to make a floor shadow, kind of bring this down horizontally. We can add that in here, and that's just going to add some shadows and shading under your subject, making it even more realistic. So there's our before and there's our after, and that's adding in an arch. You'd add in a different arch depending on if your image is portrait, landscape, square. Let's do one more quickly, and then if you want to, you can watch the other tutorials to show you this on a darker image, a white image, adding by hand, manually, and things you can do. Let me find another image. Okay, so how about this beautiful image here by Anna Brandt? Absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to choose place arch action. We're going to use for the light to medium backgrounds, because this is a very light background. It's not white, it's light. So I'm going to click this one, add arch. And now we're going to select the portrait arches. They're the same ones. They've been adapted for portrait ratio. So let's go ahead and choose our arch. I want something nice and light, something that blends with our image, and something that's going to go over our subject. How about this one? Now the light in this image is coming from the left. The light in our arch is coming from the right. So we're going to need to flip this. I'm just going to right click and choose flip. You can do it with the flip action afterwards if you want to. When it's in place, hit enter and let the action just play out super quick. And this is just placing it in and adding those editing layers. Oh, my brush is very, very big. Okay, so you can see the arch has been added. And it's got arch tone for a light background here in your layers panel, which is just going to tone it in. The arch has been set to soft light blend mode. If you find this is a bit too light for your image, you can come up on the blend mode and you can change this to overlay. You can change the multiply, it's very dark. You can kind of decide what blend mode you want. You can also come in and change the blur to make it sharper or even less in focus, entirely up to you. Everything is very editable. It's all set up to give you a nice, easy start. I'm just going to click on the tone. I'm going to take the saturation down even more, I think, just for this particular image. And that's beautiful. It's done. We have a before and after. Absolutely gorgeous. The selection is perfect that Photoshop has made, that I've set within these actions. Really, really nice. So we don't really need to do a lot with that, but if you wanted to, of course, you can mask on the arch here. It'll have a black kind of cutout, and you can use a black brush to take more of it away, or a white brush to add more of it in. What you might want to do at times is use a black brush just to kind of dab along the floor a little bit. And that's going to show some shadows. If your shadows you find are missing, you can do that. Or add the editing layers for subject. Your squishy brush, so I'm going to right click and squeeze it in. And on the paint on dark, we can paint on some shadows here. Really, really beautiful. So let's see our before and after. You can watch the other tutorials for adding these. You know, you can do whatever you want to do with these when it comes to editing. There really is no limit. I'm just going to lightly dab that just here on the areas that would be a little see-through. Really, really pretty. Learn your masking and how layers work, and you will never have a long, boring editing day again, because it's just so much fun adding these in. They're absolutely beautiful. And those are the arch overlay texture backgrounds available at lsp-actions.com. Please do watch the other tutorials for more tips and tricks in using these. Can't wait to see what you do. Please share them in the LSP Actions editing group, because I would love to see. I'm Lauren, thanks for watching.